It's 20 Macs for 2020. I'm Jason Snell, joined as always by Mr. Stephen Hackett. Stephen, hello.
Hello, Jason.
We are here through the power of the element titanium.
That's good.
A very soft element that maybe should not be used in laptops, but this is the titanium PowerBook G4. It's a beautiful thing. It is, as Steve Jobs would tell us, 1 inch thin.
That's right. Super thin. It's really kind of awkward to rewatch this keynote because he's combining power and sex, and like that's how he describes this laptop.
But they have the sex, right? They have the sex. We want both, the power and the sex, right? So today we're introducing a totally new PowerBook. But what about the sex? 1 inch thick, 5.3 pounds. And this again. What is this? Titanium. It's made out of titanium. Like the spy planes. Titanium. We think we got the power and the sex in our new PowerBook G4 Titanium.
Yeah, never my favorite.
No,
never my favorite. Old school tech bros don't do it. Just don't.
Yeah, don't do that. The thing that really jumps out at me at the titanium is how big of a break it was from the PowerBook that preceded it. It was black and curvy and had these big slots in the side. The Apple logo was the wrong way around when you opened it. And the titanium was sort of what I view as like the first modern notebook from Apple. I mean, if you sort of like back up from the screen and take your glasses off, this looks like a MacBook Pro. You know, it's very much setting the recipe that basically all notebooks follow today. And we've talked about that in the days of the very first PowerBooks, and they definitely did that too. But this thin metal design, dark keys, you know, this is where notebooks are. Now, it's built very differently and the technology is very different, but it's very clearly the ancestor to what we all have today.
Yeah, the reason that I've got this on my list for Notability is exactly what you said. This is Apple changed with this laptop from a universe where the Apple laptops were all plastic to where the Apple laptops were all metal. And we are still living in that universe. This one is different. It's not anodized aluminum. It's got the titanium. It's painted this color, and the paint tended to flake off. The hinges are super soft and brittle. My daughter, when she was a little toddler, literally just grabbed the back of my laptop and popped it off.
Oh no!
She's, a little baby, not very strong at all, and just pop. There go the hinges. Yeah. There were lots of issues here, but you see what they were doing. And the thinness, too. I would argue that whole 1 inch thin thing that Steve Jobs talked about, this is also Apple saying, look, with laptops especially, thin and light is the goal. Like, thin and light, always thinner, always lighter, every single time. And even though they didn't get all the details right and it needed more work, and you might look at it now and think, so what? What's the big deal about this laptop? This is where it all started. This was such a diversion from those pretty great, actually, the Wall Street laptop series, but they were big and curvy and black and plastic. And then you saw this and you said, what?
Yeah.
And now it looks just like of course, it's like every other Apple laptop. But at that moment, like this is where it all started.
Yeah, it really set the stage. One other thing, and you've mentioned this in previous videos about Macs are important to you. This Mac's really important to me. It wasn't the first Mac I used, but it was the first Mac that I got to treat as my own. I had this high school job, and they let me use a PowerBook and actually let me take it with me to college. And so I went through the first several years of college with a titanium PowerBook G4. And I remember being jealous that my roommate's aluminum PowerBook G4 could do the ripple effect when he added widgets to his dashboard in Tiger. But this laptop served me well for a really long time. And it served Apple really well for a long time too. I mean, this started at 450 megahertz or so. They capped it out at 1 gigahertz a couple years later. They changed up a lot of the video processing. The design really stood up, and then they went to the aluminum design for a long time after this. but Apple was able to rapidly and radically upgrade these over the course of the couple of years they were on the market. That's right in that curve where the G4 was just taking off like a rocket, and the PowerBook was right there with the desktops in terms of, every so often there's going to be incremental speed bumps and things like super drives. A lot of new technology to Apple made its way into this laptop over the years, and that's something that is also kind of cool about it.
This was that moment where everybody looked back at Apple again and said, oh, I want that laptop.
Yeah.
Like it went from being like, I like Apple stuff and I'm going to get a laptop and I'll get a PowerBook, all that. And then the Titanium came out and it changed Apple's fortunes, I think, when it came to laptops. And that has continued. And I think when the Titanium was first released, maybe 75% of Apple sales were desktop Macs. And I'm not saying this did it on its own. There are a lot of trends out there in the world to cause this to happen. But over the next decade, it flipped entirely. So, this was the beginning of a laptop first culture. And this is how Apple rode that wave.
Yeah. And you get a G4 and take it with you on an airplane. I mean, it was mind blowing, I'm sure.
Absolutely was. Absolutely was. All right. Well, we salute the Titanium PowerBook G4. Really set the stage for all Apple laptops to come. And that's this week's 20 Macs for 2020. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Jason.